Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies, dedicating all of yourselves, set apart, as a living sacrifice, holy and well-pleasing to God, which is your rational, logical, intelligent act of worship. Romans 12. What I really want to emphasize is the part where it says that this is our act of worship. When we present our bodies to God, when we dedicate all of ourselves to Him and set ourselves apart unto Him, that itself is worship. And notice that it says, present your bodies. It does not merely say present your spirit. It does not merely say present your soul. It says your bodies, meaning our minds, our eyes, our ears, our lips, our tongue, our appetites, our hands, our feet, our emotions, our thoughts, our desires, everything about us. When we set these things apart unto God, consecrating them for His glory, that itself becomes an act of worship. And then the very next verse says, "Be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." That renewing of the mind is part of consecrating the body unto God. When I say, this mind belongs to God, this imagination belongs to God, these thoughts belong to God, then I cannot allow reprobate thoughts to freely dwell there. I cannot willingly entertain thoughts that oppose the character and nature of God. Instead, I must take those thoughts captive and bring them into obedience to Christ. The same is true with the eyes. I believe Job said, "I made a covenant with my eyes," meaning his eyes were consecrated unto God. What I choose to look at matters. The videos I watch, the images I entertain, the things I expose myself to through television, social media, or entertainment. If my eyes belong to God, then they must be sanctified for God. When I willingly feast my eyes upon violence, lust, pornography, corruption, vanity, or filth, then my eyes are not remaining consecrated unto Him. The same is true with our ears. What are we listening to? Gossip, complaining, murmuring, cursing, filthy conversations, corrupt music, ungodly influences? Our ears must be sanctified unto God. And every single time we guard our ears and refuse to partake in corruption, that itself is worship. The same is true with our mouths. Our speech must be consecrated. When we refuse to gossip, when we refuse to slander, when we refuse complaining, cursing, bitterness, or corrupt speech, that is not merely being disciplined. That is worship. Even our emotions and thoughts must be sanctified unto God. Sometimes thoughts arise suddenly. Perhaps someone offended us. Perhaps we remember something hurtful that was said. Perhaps jealousy, pride, bitterness, resentment, lust, or criticism begins rising in the heart. But the moment we recognize those thoughts and refuse to allow them to take root, the moment we cast them down, the moment we deliberately turn our minds towards righteousness, that itself becomes an act of worship unto God. When jealousy arises and we refuse to entertain it, that is worship. When pride rises up and we humble ourselves before God, that is worship. When resentment tries to settle into the heart and we reject it, that is worship. Because in those moments we are saying, "Lord, you are worthy of obedience more than my flesh is worthy of gratification." Even our appetites must be consecrated unto God. How we eat, how we drink, how we use our time, whether we choose laziness or discipline, whether we choose comfort or obedience, all of these things reveal what we worship. Sometimes worship is not lifting hands in a church service. Sometimes worship is getting out of a warm, comfortable bed early in the morning because you desire to seek God rather than indulge the flesh in more sleep. That is worship because you are sacrificing comfort for communion with God. And the opposite is also true. Whenever we knowingly indulge what God is convicting us about, whenever we knowingly give ourselves over to fleshly gratification, whenever we exalt our comfort, our appetites, our desires above obedience to God, that becomes a form of self-worship because we are choosing self over surrender. But every time we deny ourselves for the sake of righteousness, every time we guard our thoughts, guard our speech, guard our eyes, guard our ears, exercise self-control, crucify the flesh, and consecrate ourselves unto God, we are worshiping Him. That is why I believe worship is far deeper than singing songs alone. Yes, worship includes praise. Yes, worship includes thanksgiving. Yes, worship includes hymns and spiritual songs. But worship is also the continual presenting of ourselves unto God throughout daily life. And this is also connected to praying without ceasing. Some people wonder, how can someone pray continually while still working, driving, cleaning, shopping, caring for family, and doing ordinary things? But part of continual prayer is continual worship. When the heart remains consecrated, when the mind remains watchful, when the tongue remains guarded, when thoughts are continually brought into obedience, when the flesh is continually denied, the soul remains in a posture of worship before God, even in ordinary daily life. So whether we're working, driving, shopping, cleaning, or simply sitting quietly, if we are continually consecrating ourselves unto God, continually choosing holiness, continually exercising self-control for His glory, then our lives themselves become an altar of worship. Praise the Lord.